Say you don't like it, no. No, you don't like it. Let me rewrite it, then. Let me read. Say you don't like it, no. No, you don't like it. Let me rewrite it, then. Let me read. Say you don't like it, no. No, you don't like it. Let me rewrite it, then. Let me read. Say you don't like it. No, you don't like it, no. Let me rewrite it, then. Let me in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Rewriters Room. We are the men with the pen. I'm one third of our illustrious trio, Armand Sather, the John Cena of journalism, the Brock Lesnar of broadcasting, the Roman Reigns of rhetoric, and the Paul Heyman of podcasting. Of course, by now, if you do not know, if you've been listening to this show for 5 years or 1 year, you know that I don't do this thing alone. I got two impeccable black men with me. CC, how the hell are you?
Hey, what's good? This CC, best rapper and producer in the whole wide world. God body, because I consume healthy products and do talk girls. Benevolent servant to the earth and philanthropist. Every phrase I say is a gem, light, amethyst. I was just out the bar the other night, dancing in the middle of the club, just me and a bunch of joints. There was other niggas in there, but they was just like, we don't want to dance with them because whose man's is this? I may talk a lot. I only got one thing to say. Love yourself and keep going. You are the world. Give all you can. Take care of your body, your people, and your land. Where the fuck my nigga Chan?
We're coming back from the biggest WrestleMania in history. The mid card didn't dominate as we have in years in past, but we were definitely, well represented. Had some great matches. So just recovering. I feel like after WrestleMania is basically a new season. I guess till the draft is really the new season, but there's always kind of like the buds and new storyline. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens with our new mid card champions. We got 3 out of 4 are new. So I'm excited to see what happens with them. We got some interesting characters, some really younger, newer faces. So, maybe it's like newer, but just like different. Like they're like first time champions type of thing. So I always like a first time champion because it's like anything. It's the first time. All the rivalries are new dynamics, new show. So I'm just interested to see what they do with it. Should be a good time.
Yes, and we will be covering WrestleMania 41 in its entirety, or as much as we want to cover it and discuss it in our not so pre-write later on in the show. But first, what you must do is make sure that you are subscribed to the A Show RNC Patreon, patreon.com/the A Show RNC for early access to episodes, extended episodes, bonus content, the ability to submit hot takes, the ability to just do a lot of different things that you cannot do if you were not subscribed to the Patreon. So make sure that you do that. We're going to jump right into it. We have some trivia prepared by our good friend Chan. And, as you know, the storyline that's still going is, will I be defeated? Will this undefeated streak come to an end? So here's another chance to see if it's going to happen. So Chan will lead us to the promised land.
All right. So for all of my people who have been keeping up with wrestling, we did have some major moments at WrestleMania. One of which I think it's still going to play out, but I think could be one of the more impactful, consequential ones is Paul Heyman choosing his newest Heyman guys, plural. So today's trivia is going to be about Paul Heyman. So I got some questions about that and his men. So some of the first couple ones are just kind of like, I don't know if you'll know these, but they're just like things I learned that were interesting. So I'm going to ask. But the main question at the end, I think, is you guys should both know. So first question. When Paul Heyman first debuted in wrestling, what was his name?
Paul E. Dangerously?
Yep.
Yeah.
Paul E. Dangerously. Second question. When ECW was first founded as part of NWA, what was the name of the company?
Eastern Championship Wrestling?
Correct, Armando Burger. Yeah, I didn't know that. It makes so much sense. Like when I read it, I'm like, oh, well, yes, because ECW. But yeah, I did not know that. It was Eastern Championship Wrestling. The Extreme came later. Third question. When Paul Heyman first debuted on WWF product, he was on commentary. Who was he replacing?
JR?
Yep.
No, a King.
Yep. Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah, because at that point, it was funny. Him and JR kind of they didn't like each other, but on TV, they were amazing together.
Yeah, they had like a relationship beforehand. So he replaced Jerry.
That's crazy. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. I've never seen Heyman I don't think I've ever seen him do commentary unless he was like a guest for a match or something. I've never.
It's
never
like
seen his
the
commentary.
invasion like angle like kind of leads into that, and so it's like he's doing commentary, but he's also like basically a character. Like he's like half the time just like talking about how great ECW and WCW are, not really talking about the matches, but he's also like introducing a lot of the WCW people, which is cool. So last question, I mean, is a two-parter. So the first part, who was the first WWF Paul Heyman guy?
Brock Lesnar?
WWF Paul Heyman guy.
Brock Lee Lesnar.
Was it still the WWF at that point?
It might have been WWE, but it was close to transition because it was when they
0102 is around. It's because they did a whole corporate shuffle around that time.
So they're probably still getting the F out, honestly.
Yeah.
That was probably still on TV. Those commercials, because I remember those. Get the F out.
I
do remember that.
Because Brock debuted like right after Mania 18, and I'm pretty. But the brand extension happened after that. So it was still WWF. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then last question, which I think will be the most fun, because I didn't really do this math. There are 8 Paul Heyman guys. Can you name them?
Yeah, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar,
Rob Van Dam,
Roman Reigns,
Curtis Axel,
Seth,
Cesaro.
So let's do them in order to make it simpler.
Shit.
The first one you already said was Brock, so we have that one down. So there's 7 more to go. Who was the second?
It had to be Rob Van Dam.
So this was a hard one for me. I'll give you that, but part of per how it's listed on a lot of sites, he's not technically a Paul Heyman guy because it was like the ECW thing was like he was more of that, but he is often like considered one. But it was like you would see some list and he wasn't, some list he was. So I was looking into it and I was like, I think that's what people's kind of back and forth is. It's like, was it because he was ECW and just happened to be the champ and like the guy who was picked to push, or was he like a Paul Heyman guy? But anyway, after that,
I want to say he briefly represented Kurt Angle after that.
Negative. Kurt Angle was a part of ECW though. He was drafted when Paul was lead, but he was not like personally representing him.
So I mean, I think we'd have to go CM Punk next.
This is when it gets into like that era of like it was switching CM Punk.
Isn't there a silly one? Like I have it in my head. Am I right?
Silly. The next two are silly. Silly. The next 3 are kind of silly, honestly.
Ryback, right? Ryback was one for
so
second,
Ryback is there, but he's not next. There's someone else in front of Ryback.
And then next is Curtis Axel.
Yep, Curtis Axel.
And then it's Ryback.
That's why I can't remember this because
Cesaro.
Cesaro. Curtis Axel, Ryback, and then Cesaro.
I see why he thinks Roman Reigns. No, this makes sense. This actually,
Roman Reigns changed his life.
if you went from ECW to Brock Lesnar to CM Punk, and then the next 3 things that happened to you was that. Yeah, we did change his broken.
He was doing Punk and Brock at one time together, and then goes to Curtis Axel try to get him some motion. All right, so we're at Cesaro. What's after Cesaro?
That was around 2014-ish, and then Brock had come back, and he was pretty much with
3 left. Yeah, so and I'm not counting like when he goes back to Brock a couple times because I'm just saying that's one. So there's 3 left.
It would have to be Roman after that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then Seth and Braun Breaker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Crazy.
Damn. Quite a comeback. I was worried.
Yeah, you had him there for a minute there, CC.
I was worried.
I mean, once we got to the chronological thing, I was more interested in actually hearing what the chronological order was than I was in winning any of this. Because I was genuinely interested to see the timeline of all of this stuff. And it really does, like, in kayfabe, it really does make sense why Paul would thank him. Like, especially knowing where everything went with, like, the old regime and everybody attached to that. It's like, oh, no, we did change this broke nigga life.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, in many people's eyes, Heyman is the greatest manager of all time, but he's had his guys who he couldn't really get over. Like, Ryback was over. Like, undeniably. Curtis Axel never worked. Cesaro had like some motion.
It was
ain't
after
really
he won that
achieved.
Andre the Giant. It was like,
Yeah,
oh, he's with Paul. This is gonna happen, and they just never
yeah.
did anything with it. Like it wasn't even like he flopped. They just never even started.
It just didn't catch on at all. It
I
was
was gonna
like
do a question about like, has Paul managed someone who's not been a world champion? But then I got the list. I'm like, oh, it's closer than so.
it's
It's like 50
it's a few of
50.
them.
Like,
Yeah,
but I mean, I
it's a
think
few.
Braun will be one day. But like, if you're looking at it, it's just Brock, Curtis, Roman, and Seth. I mean, not Curtis. Roman, Seth, Punk, and Brock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's 4 for 4 right now. So it could get fishy. But yeah, that was
Mm.
trivia for this week.
Excellent. Well, we're going to jump in our rewrite for this week. We are back to rewriting the lengthy, layered, extensive Bloodline story. When we left off, we were going through two kind of parallel plots, which was the Bloodline unifying the tag team titles, and then Brock Lesnar returning, the road to the last man standing match, the final match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But what was bubbling under the kind of underneath the surface was also Drew McIntyre emerging as the next challenger for Roman Reigns' undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And so this week we'll be rewriting the road to Clash at the Castle 2022. I was initially going to have us throw in the whole Logan Paul aspect, but that's like covering like 5 months. That's a lot. So we're just going to do Clash at the Castle and the fallout of that. I'll start just because mine really isn't that. It's not super long pause. But the kind of big selling point here, and what WWE did a really good job of with that, was making it really feel like, yo, Drew is gonna be the guy to beat Roman Reigns. Like he was overcoming being jumped. He just did a lot of different things. His promos, all of that. Like there was just this really big energy surrounding like, yo, this is really going to be the moment. Not to mention Clash the Castle, though it wasn't in his hometown. It was in Cardiff, Wales, which was close-ish to Scotland. A lot of Drew's family was out there. They brought back Broken Dreams for him. Like it was just feeling like, yo, this man really about to do it. And so if you remember in my rewrite, we go back to Survivor Series 2020. I had Drew McIntyre defeat Roman Reigns in that champion versus champion match. And if we go back to our last episode where we're rewriting things, I was kind of torn on, like, I knew I wanted Drew and RK Bro to beat the Bloodline. I just didn't know if I had Drew pin Roman or one of RK Bro pin the Usos. So for the sake of this story, act as if Drew pinned Roman Reigns in that 6-man tag team match. So now Drew has 2 wins on this version of Roman Reigns, who Paul Heyman goes around and says, hey, man, like no one's beating this Roman Reigns. No one's beating this version of Roman Reigns. Well, that's going to be Drew's whole motivation going into this story. And that's going to remind Roman Reigns that the reason he lost both times was because of the Usos. So Sami Zayn, who's trying to get into the bloodline, is going to use that as his advantage to earn favor with Roman. So in situations where the Usos can't help Roman, Sami Zayn's going to help him. Like that one episode where the Usos couldn't even get across the border. Sami Zayn is going to go out there, distract Drew. Drew's going to try to claim more Roman Reigns. Sami jumps in the way. Roman hits a Superman punch. And, the very next week, like Roman takes notice of that and says, Sami, I appreciate that. Like that's definitely something family would do. There's another situation where the Usos go out, they try to fight Drew. Drew beats him down. Sami comes out, Roman gets the upper hand, and then that's the iconic photo where Roman is sitting on Drew with the chair around his which is very triggering, very traumatic for me. And then because of Sami's help, so it obviously Roman can't have a 2-year Universal Championship celebration or a longest reigning championship celebration, because if you remember, I had John Cena beat him at SummerSlam 2021, so he hasn't had a consecutive run with the title. He had to get it back. So instead, Roman is hosting a celebration for Sami Zayn to welcome him into the family, or attempting to welcome into the family. Obviously, that's not going to work out because Drew takes out Roman Reigns in the parking lot. He takes out the Usos. He takes out Sami, and he thinks that he's eliminated all distractions for Clash of the Castle. So the story at Clash of the Castle, because also there's no Heyman. Heyman got put through a table by Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. So Roman is literally by himself. Like this is his first match by himself since Royal Rumble 2022. So that's the story. It's like, yo, Drew has only been able to beat Roman because of help or distractions by the Usos, but he still has 2 wins on him. And Roman Reigns has won a lot of his matches with help from other people. So will he be able to do it by himself? Of course, lo and behold, we get to Clash at the Castle. Solo Sikoa debuts, helps Roman Reigns to retain his title. Drew is psychotic. The very next night, he comes out, tries to get his lick back on the Bloodline. And then Karrion Kross debuts and stops him. So Drew kind of gets, distracted with that, goes off and does that. But yeah, that's my rewrite. Really just like heightening the pressure that was on Roman, really heightening and also sowing some seeds of bloodline dissension very early, because Roman is literally like, yo, Drew would not have beaten me these times if you guys weren't my partners, or if you didn't get involved in my matches. And then he's really giving Sami Zayn all this love, and Sami didn't have to get abused and get beat up in 3 matches to join the family. Like he's getting welcomed in. So Jay's PTSD is triggered. Jimmy cool with it. Like that's his dog. He cool. And then Solo also recognizes how useful Sami is. So Solo's cool with it. So getting those early signs to, where the story is eventually going to lead.
I like the idea of,
I'll go
you
ahead.
go. I was gonna say I like the idea of just Roman being on his own, because I feel like that's kind of what we're about to be exploring, is like just kind of what is it like the tribal chief without all the accoutrement. And so I feel like that would have been interesting to see on his rise up as well, because now it's like he's done all the stuff, and so it would be interesting on his rise up of like, when Roman has his back against the wall, what is he gonna make sure? I thought that would have been cool.
Yeah,
For
sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I also love how you setting up the psychological aspect, all the people involved with the bloodline. I mainly say that because that's what I did also with mine too. Channing, if you don't mind, mine going next. So mine is like kind of similar to yours, but I got a little bit more. I drilled down into that aspect of the people's motivations, feelings, attitudes, and all that stuff, kind of like going haywire as they're trying to get Sami into the bloodline and figure out that whole chemistry. So from, if you guys remember from my, basically my universe, Rome is a little bit more proactive when it comes to the manipulative and the attacking stuff. So it's just basically everything he's doing now, but it's turned up and it's more preemptive. So rather it being a situation where somebody does something backstage and then in response to that, he's like, okay, now I'm going to be manipulative in this way. He's like, no, I already see where shit is going or whatever. I'm going to set it up this way. So that's the background context for all this. Right. So, we're at that spot where, we're around that week where they do the whole thing with, jumping Drew and having the chair and shit. Right. But around this time, Sammy's not really in it with Jay or whatever. Jimmy's starting to lean more towards Jay about this or whatever, but Roman is also bringing Sami in closer. So that's kind of pitting the twins against Sami. So rather it just being Jay being the only one being why is there a problem? It's kind of like the Usos versus Sami sort of thing. And then Jay has this backstage conversation with Jimmy saying first it was Paul or whatever. Now it's Sami, can't let snakes get in or whatever. But that's not a thing that ever gets addressed or really anything. That's just kind of sitting in the background. Bloodline ends up attacking Drew. They do the whole chair thing or whatever. But right after this, the week after, Karrion catches Sami alone backstage, and he says that he sees what he's doing or whatever, and that he's proud of Sami. So in my version, I have Karrion involved a much earlier, and you'll see why as we get into this later. But Karrion says to him, he's like, listen, I see what you're doing and I'm proud of you, but I'm not as proud as I will be. And Sammy's all confused and he just walks away. And we're just what does that mean? So then Drew McIntyre or whatever, he ends up getting his leg back or whatever. For this one, the twins get whooped by Drew first. But then Sami haluva kicks Drew, and it seems like he has the upper hand, but then he gets a little bit too braggy with it, ends up taking a claymore or whatever. And then Usos see that as more evidence, for while they're outside, see, he's not really, pulling his weight type stuff. And then there's a camera angle showing all of this from backstage, and you can see the back of Karrion and Scarlett, and it kind of turns a little bit so you can still see it, but you can see they're both smiling or whatever. So then we get the clash or whatever. And we're a week out before that. Sami has a chance to put Drew away for Roman, ends up losing that match. Then we get to the actual clash. Sami has that chance basically again. and like he makes the same mistake to where like he gets a little bit too cocky, not take his eye off the ball, and he's out of the picture. So Drew's already gotten the Usos and Sammy out the way in this while we're at Clash. Crowd is going fucking crazy because he sees he got rid of the whole bloodline or whatever. And at that point, Drew claymores Roman. He goes in the corner. He's gonna go for number 2. At this point, we're like, yo, he got all of them out the paint. He's going for Claymore number 2 or whatever. The ref is back from the bump at this point. The crowd's going crazy. He goes for Claymore number 2. 1, 2, gets pulled out of the ring by Solo Sikoa. Exactly how it actually happens or whatever. So at this point, the fallout for the best part about this match is the fallout from it afterwards, seeing everybody's responses. Sammy is like shocked and embarrassed because he had a chance to step up for the tribal chief and he didn't. The Usos are like more distrusting of Sammy, but they're also questioning Roman and kind of like surprised themselves because they didn't know Solo was coming or whatever. And meanwhile, you have Roman looking at Solo a little more approvingly than he is anyone else, really. And it's like obvious on his face. So you just have all this like sort of drama of this like post sort of match stuff going on, and everybody in the bloodline feels like their position is threatened, who's not named Roman or like Solo or whatever. So Drew ends up trying to get like his lick back or whatever. And then we get the Karrion Kross, like, debut the way it happens. But the difference is by the time Karrion comes in with Drew at this point, now Drew like has a reason to really be shifted towards him and like off the bloodline. And the other thing that I wanted to do with this, that I really wanted to draw attention to was, remember earlier how I said like Karrion said that he was proud of Sammy, but he's not as proud as he's going to be yet. This is speaking to Karrion predicting how he's going to turn on the bloodline or whatever later. So like this is taking the 4K shit and being like, nah, we going even way back. Let's start from the top with this shit. So yeah, I tried to wind that in a little bit because I think Drew's gonna run into him again at some point too. So try to see if we could set a little bit of something up there. But the main thing here is that right after the other part of the fall to wrap it up with the bloodline on their side. So like we got Drew, we got Karrion or whatever, but with the bloodline, there's all this tension, but like Roman has them like squash it and stuff anyway. We end up, doing the Uzi stuff or whatever. But the whole thing is like they all feel camaraderie because they went through this like time of tension and there's like, no, we really brothers or whatever. And like Roman's like smiling about that, and they think Roman's smiling because he's happy because they all like got back together. And really what's happening is Roman created the fucking problem in the first place by making them all paranoid of each other, and then like played the good guy and like solved, quote unquote, solving the problem or whatever. So he just manipulated them niggas into being closer or whatever and further under his control. That's how maniacal this nigga is in my version. But that was like the whole point of that whole shit. That's what he gets off, and he's just going full sicko mode at this point. But yeah, that's my rewrite.
I like that. I like also as someone who was a bit too early on the Karrion Kross bandwagon, I'm glad to see my spooky brethren is getting the burn he deserves.
Mm-hmm. Big 4K nigga.
All right, so mine's a little goofy, but we're gonna just go there. So in my universe, Drew has won the number one contendership. What's the name? Roman's coming off the match with Brock, but Paul is still around. Starts off, Drew is like, basically, I've seen this story. These people get into this match with the bloodline. Something always happens. They surprise someone comes up. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to take something out of the equation before we even get there. So Drew kidnaps Paul Heyman, just takes him from the back and now he's with him. And part of the gag is that basically Drew is like still on TV, like in the backstage, but he's like has Paul kind of hostage. And like the Drew and like Roman and them don't know where he's at. And so part of it, they do have their celebration. So that's being planned. But Roman's kind of down. He's like, something's missing. And Sammy's like, I have an idea, Jimmy. I think I have a good idea for a gift that I can get Roman that'll cheer him up that I think he'll need. He said, and I think it'll help us get Paul back. He said, all right, cool. What is it? So they go in the room, talk about it. Then at the celebration, it's going normally, they're talking about how great Roman is. But then Sammy kind of just he brings out the contract for the match at Clash of the Castle. And he's like, you know what? Drew's too scared to sign this. You're such a great Universal Champion. Drew doesn't even want to step to you. Like, he hasn't even put pen to paper. He's afraid of you. Like, that's how great you are, my tribal chief. And what I want to give you as a gift is this unsigned contract. Of course, as wrestling goes, Drew appears. He's about to Claymore Roman. In this instance, this is when Sammy gets in the way. Drew picks up the contract, signs it, scribble, scribble, scrabble. But what we've noticed is that Jay is not with them. Jay is in the back. He finds Paul. Paul's been beat up, but now Jay has him, so Paul is safe. The match is set. So at the match, Paul is still injured, so he's not there. The match itself goes very similar, except there is no solo debut. I want to save that potentially for something down the road. But also, the match is a bit more even. It's a bit more back and forth. At the end, Roman goes for a spear, misses it. Claymore, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, Drew has beat Roman. He's our Universal Champion. Confetti, they're singing. Everything's going crazy. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, Paul Heyman. What's Paul Heyman doing here? Why wasn't he here on match? He says, there's something I would like to bring to light to the audience. If you look at page 3, section 2 of the contract Drew McIntyre signed, it says the title cannot change without the wise man present. As I was not here for the match, that win is invalid. Drew, stunned, pissed, low blow. Oh no, Drew's bent over. Roman runs the rope, spear. Roman puts Drew in a guillotine. He's knocked out. Roman is still Universal Champion. Paul's happy. And what we see in the back is Jimmy and Jay giving Sammy a high five, saying, great plan there. I knew that was such a good idea getting Drew to sign that contract. He was so mad he didn't even look at it. He would have signed anything with you taunting him. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to show you guys I'm Usi and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be down. So, in this way, we still have Roman as champion. He's not technically lost, but he has been pinned by Drew. And so that is now a factor. But this is how Sammy kind of earns his way into the bloodline. He has now tricked Drew McIntyre to sign this Fugazi contract. He's also got Paul Heyman from being kidnapped. And he is not fully an honorary Us, but very far down the line to being so.
Damn. Because
that was amazing.
That's some shit that like angry ass Drew would definitely sign anything.
Yep.
Damn. That probably would have hurt even more.
Right, because you get the win, you see the thing, and Drew's going crazy. Yeah. I want it to be peak. Like, you think Drew has run this match, but you don't see like the little end card thing, and then you just hear Paul Heyman's voice cut through Drew's music, and you're like, oh gosh.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest, that would like further back the quote unquote like whiny Drew shit. That would like to me, I'd be like, no, that nigga got a point. Because he went and won the match, man. Come on.
That would make now all the stuff he's doing now, but you fucked me over.
That's some shit that like Vince McMahon would have done for sure.
Oh yeah.
Vince would have 1,000% done that.
That's a Chris Jericho angle for sure. That's Jericho's crazy. Getting that off on Kurt Angle or someone and just slicing his way to the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah,
I appreciate you bringing us that story from the learning tree.
Yeah, I like Solo's debut was cool, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit bigger, so I wanted to save that. But I like the idea of Drew thinking he's just right there. Because I thought that was the closest, like, as a non-Drew McIntyre head, I was like, oh, wow, he about to do it. It just wasn't meant to be.
It is interesting looking back at the Solo debut. Like, it was something that, like, because, a lot of people like to fancy book the bloodline. And so, like, people for, like, months leading into Solo coming up, they're like, yo, Solo's going to join the bloodline eventually. And so kind of getting that moment and it being his first appearance on main roster TV, him doing that at PLE was dope. He didn't even actually, like, beat up Drew. He just appeared and distracted him. So it's like, it may not have been, like, the best kind of interference, but it was still impactful enough to make Drew lose.
Right. Massive moment for sure.
Yeah. And obviously everything after that, like them presenting him as he was unbeatable for a while. They did a really good job hiding how mid Solo really is. like he was having matches with like stars. Like he faced
John Cena.
He faced Cena. He faced
I was gonna say, didn't he beat Cena at WrestleMania?
Crown Jewel.
Yeah, like
Crown Jewel, sorry.
And so they did a good job putting him against like top talent who could call the matches. But then now that we're seeing him like have to be out on his own and all that, it's like, damn, bro, like You not like that.
It's
You're
funny
actually
though
not like
because
that.
it's like they portrayed him as this guy who doesn't talk but can really wrestle, and he's really a funny guy who's just an okay
Mhm.
wrestler. And it's like
Yeah.
he's actually the other way around because he's so funny now. But
Yeah,
like,
he's
yeah, I don't
funny.
really care about his matches. But when he like, especially when he can like play off like Jacob being like a straight man, like he's actually very good at that. And like that's honestly where I kind of want to see him now. Like the Street Champ stuff is cool, but I
Hmm.
kind of want to see it as more as like a Dom Mysterio Healy, where I just like talk a
Mm.
lot and like I'm a kind of annoying, but I'm like a bad guy in that way. Like he is physically imposing, but he's much funnier than he is like a good wrestler, in
Bro,
my
he's
opinion.
been the funniest nigga since I got tickets. I think about that shit so often. That is so fucking funny.
The
That nigga
faces he
said,
was
"Hey,
making, the
he, hey, I got tickets."
yeah, that was good.
He's
But yeah, no,
definitely
you're
in a
yeah.
very interesting case. I'm like, will we one day see him have a moment like Jey Uso? But right now, I can't see it.
Main
I,
event
I
Solo Sokoa. Wow,
I I think that they want him to reach that point, but
for sure.
I don't
I think
know
the part of the issue is that at least in the short term, Jacob has passed him in terms of fan appeal. Where it's like
already.
I could see Jacob getting that first now, just the way. I mean, Jacob is
Absolutely.
U.S. champion. I mean, like that shows
Yeah.
you what happened. Like I
Yeah.
think if you would have asked me a year ago, I'd be like, oh well, yeah, Solo's gonna be L.A. Knight for U.S. title if it's gonna be somebody. But now it's like, of course it's Jacob. So I think that's
Yeah.
part of his issue too.
Yeah. But yes, that is our rewrite. Our next episode will cover the road to Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul at Crown Jewel 2022 and potentially War Games 2022. Actually, yeah, we'll probably do War Games because the Roman Logan Paul stuff wasn't that involved. But we do get the Usi segment along the way, the honorary Us t-shirt segment along the way. So you guys might all get that in one. We might split it up. I'll decide when I'm handling pre-production. But let's get to our not so pre-write. As we discussed at the beginning of the show, WrestleMania 41 took place last week, so we're just going to talk about all of it. Um, I'll I'll kick it off with this. I think that since WrestleMania 38, they have continually had to outdo themselves. And I think that they did. I think, 38 was great, and then 39 was amazing. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite WrestleManias I've watched ever. And I think WrestleMania 40 was amazing too. I don't know if I would. I think that some of the match results made it a more satisfying WrestleMania than WrestleMania 39. I don't know if it was better on paper. But so you have that really strong run 38, 39, 40. And then you get to 41. They're in Las Vegas. John Cena's in a main event. You get the triple threat: Roman, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. You get the triple threat: Rhea, Bianca, Io. There's a lot of really intriguing things that fans could really rally around. Jey Uso versus Gunther. I don't. I would have trouble ranking them now just because it's only been a week since. I think I can very comfortably say 41 wasn't better than 40
Yeah.
or 39 or 38, but the good stuff in it was really good. The bad stuff is just like it's so bad, almost egregious that it's just like it really kind of weighs it down for me. So I'd say those are my like initial thoughts. I'm sure we'll get into specific matches, but like, how'd y'all feel about the overall WrestleMania 41 show? And if you do want to try and compare it to the previous ones, how would you do that?
I think for me, and I've said this a couple times, so it's nothing groundbreaking, but I think what it is like this is to me what most WrestleManias are like. There's some very high highs and there's some low lows. I think what has happened is that the bloodline stuff has just consumed so much of wrestling for the last 2 years. It kind of like puts like you have bloodline tinted glasses on
Hmm.
where it's like, well, yeah, nothing will ever probably in it's like the streak. It's like Undertaker's streak. It's like you have to have 21 years of wins to get to that moment. You have to have Cody losing the year before and all of the Uso stuff and the solo stuff. Like think how many episodes we're doing on this one storyline to get to WrestleMania 40 where you finish story. You have to have fucking John Cena show up. You have to have the Undertaker. Like, you have to have so many layers, and it's like most WrestleManias are stories that are contained within like the last like between Rumble and WrestleMania. Like they're not 2-year-long storylines. And so most WrestleManias are kind of like 6 month short-term storylines, and they're kind of individually encapsulated. And so I think that was cool. And so I think that's part of like when you're talking about it, you have to just kind of realize that like it's like if you just watched, Training Day and then you go and watch Deja Vu. Yeah, Deja Vu's not a bad Denzel movie, but it's just not Training Day. Like Training Day just is one of his best movies. And then I also think what I've kind of in my older kind of seeing of WrestleMania, definitely with all the different sponsorships and stuff, WrestleMania is becoming, and maybe it always has been, but it's much more of a showcase than like a part like a story. Like I think people want WrestleMania to be like an Avengers movie where it's like, no, this is the season finale of all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's not really that, especially not anymore. Maybe it was, but I think it's much more now of like, what are the 14 best things we can put on TV that people will like, and it's not necessarily equal to what is the story we've been telling in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's just like a pivot that I've had to make. And to me, I like that kind of stuff. Like I like just that random tag matches. Like I don't need a bunch of build to get in. Like I'll just be in. Like, and so I like that kind of stuff. But I see how if that's what you're looking for, yeah, okay, maybe this was a little undercooked. But to me, it's like this is what it is now. When wrestling becomes more mainstream, it becomes more catering to more people. And that's the give and take we're dealing with right now, where it's like, but they're not gonna put WrestleMania on Netflix if they're not gonna give Logan Paul a match. The two things go hand in hand, brother. So like, to me, that's just kind of where I'm at with it. But I enjoyed it, and like, cause I said, I love a multi-man match. You guys know, I'll throw a 6-man ladder match in for the fuck of it. So to triple threats, I was into them. I love a silly spot. Like I love also like. And I'm talking about this with my section, is like seeing people win their first titles. Like I got almost emotional because it's like that's so beautiful that Dom did that, bro. Like, or that Jacob, like I know he talks about it, I mean, but when he talks about his actual story and then to be at WrestleMania, it's like that's awesome, bro. Like, and so like I do like that too, of like no, this is just about this moment. It doesn't have to be about everything Liv and Dom were doing the past 2 years. This Dom thing is just about Dom, and it's just cool.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
100% agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry, CC. I was real quick. Chan, you made two really good points. Is like, yeah, WrestleMania is not as much as I love Cody Rhodes and I love the fact that he finished the story. The whole finish the story phrase has been so detrimental to how people look at wrestling overall. Not everyone has a story that needs to be finished. Not everyone's story compares to Cody Rhodes' story. And yes, you want to put the 14 best things, and best don't necessarily mean best in ring. It's like just the coolest people, the most marketable people. Like, did I want to see New Day Viking Raiders? No, but that Clash of Clans sponsorship, it all made perfect sense. It all made absolute perfect sense. So it's a really important thing to remember. I think people get so caught up in, like you said, the last couple years of WrestleMania that they don't look at, the overall, like how it's been overall throughout its history. Like we've gotten the most random, thrown together, no story whatsoever matches, but sometimes they bang, or it's just cool people that people want to see in a match. Like that's really what it is.
There was no build for these Brock Roman matches. They was just like Brock and Roman got beef. It wasn't no like, man, what is the it's like no, like this is the story because these are the two most popping dudes, and y'all gonna watch. And I'm gonna watch. But like it wasn't like Brock was on a 2-year journey to beat Reigns. It was Brock won the title, so he had the title and he faced Roman. Like that was it. He won the Elimination Chamber. Like it wasn't no 6-month build. That just was what it was, and that's how most WrestleManias were up until the last 2 years.
Yeah, Brock and Roman really didn't have their first good and like lengthy build until their last WrestleMania match, WrestleMania 38, and it was because of Paul Heyman, the whole Heyman thing of it all. So, yeah, sometimes it's literally just like you pick who the hot hand is, that they win the Rumble, they go face that champion, and then they take over. Story is important. I'm not saying story isn't important. I love story. I'm a storytelling guy, but I really think it has warped how people view and assess the product. But CC, go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off before.
No, you're straight. I agree with that. All of that too. No, like again, it just goes back to. I think it's encapsulated in the bloodline colored glasses comment. It's a thing where it's ironic because I would argue that if you were to draw a Venn diagram of people who look at the stuff through the bloodline colored glasses, and also like the other circle is people are incredibly critical of the product. It would like kind of really just kind of like look like a circle with like shading. You know, it's like somebody's trying to draw a 3D circle. It's not that much of a the split. You know what I mean? I think, and that's the ironic thing, and that's what Roman was always talking about. He was like, "No, I know what I did. I just changed the paradigm. Like this is how you watch wrestling now. You expect to watch a movie. Now you expect a movie." But
That's a good one. Yeah.
yeah, and to that point about the showcase though, it was just like, if I'm not mistaken, like, because I watched hella docs or whatever, that's the one word that I remember specifically being used by.
Showcase of the Immortals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. There it is, right there. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's supposed to be like us, like, no, big money grab spectacle. Here's the big pop. You know, here's our Super Bowl. And like, I think because people think, again, you tie in the movie aspect with the end of the season Super Bowl aspect, you know, whether it be end of the season sports, end of the season TV, people expect like a big culmination of like something, but those expectations are their own expectations or whatever.
Yeah.
No one ever said that this is what this was going to be. And then when people talk about it, when Randy talks about it and all of that stuff, whenever people are saying stuff, they're like, dog, I'm just trying to get to wrestle. You ever notice how they're never saying, I want to fight the nigga I hate the most at WrestleMania. They're like, no, I just want to be at WrestleMania. I don't give a fuck about that. You know what I mean?
Bro, it's about a moment. It's not about getting a match. I want a moment. I want a spot in time. And I think what's important to say too is that I say all this to say that the only way you get moments like Cody finishing story is by having WrestleManias like this. Like the only way that like one day we have our Montez Ford, oh my God, he did it moment is if we have all of these things to build off. I was left off Mania. I wasn't in title spot. I was attacked. Like the only way it gets there is by having this stuff. The only way he can say in the promos if he's not on the card. You can't win all the time and then cut a promo about being an underdog. And so like I think it's also just part of like patience. It's like those things you want to have. Like wrestling does not stop. There will always be Raw after Mania. There is no break. And so it's like, yeah, he wasn't on WrestleMania this year. That just means next year it can be a bigger moment.
Yeah.
Like Braun got to lose the IC title to be a Paul Heyman guy. He can't do both. Like you have to have these moments.
He wasn't on WrestleMania, and then 6 days later was on the first SmackDown after WrestleMania show in the main event and retained his title.
In a banger.
That's a pretty good, like, if I didn't do this, I could do that sort of situation. I would settle for that. I think
you got to start somewhere to climb up the ladder. Like you just can't. And
your wife just had the most classic fucking triple threat at WrestleMania, and you in the 6 days later you retain your title. Pretty good week. Pretty good fucking week.
Nobody's crying for Montez Ford, but I'm just saying, like, to get to that moment, we got to go through this. And so I think too, it's like sports. It's like if your team wins all the time, that's great. Right. But sometimes part of like really getting emotional about sports is like my team sucked and they finally did it. Like they finally climbed the mountain, and like you got to start at the bottom to climb the mountain. And I think that's guys. This may be a bottom of the mountain PLE, but that just means we have room to go up. And so next year 100%. We can be like, remember all that stuff last year? How much better this is now? How it's building off that? I just like the book's not. What's it? The book's not finished. You gotta keep going. Run through the tape.
Yeah. And that's the last thing I'll say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you good, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the last thing I'll say. Like the showcase and like that's how I was gonna end is like it's a showcase and it does the job of like it does both. It's not supposed to just do one thing. You look at each thing and how well it did that thing. So like I think on the showcase aspect, a lot of great matches or whatever. The lows to me weren't low because of like objective like scoring of storyline or match being like absolutely terrible. It was more so like the boring, because I can look at something terrible and be excited. Like it was terrible that Titus tripped, but like we all laughed.
That was funny.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It was technically a bad thing, but was it a bad thing? Because it was a good thing. And even though it can kind of be embarrassing in a sense or whatever, he still has, that's something that he has, and he can do other things with it. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where, to your point, Chan, like I saw wrestlers this WrestleMania take whatever it was that they were given and make more out of it and everything that they had, even the things that I didn't enjoy. That's why the worst thing is that to me, it was just like, oh, it just didn't hit. And I'm like, but it's not like I didn't see no lack of effort. And that's the thing that stood out to me in comparison when you draw back to these last couple WrestleManias, Armand. That's what Triple H has been building this entire time. He's been building a thing where it's like everybody's gonna come out and do their best, and like that's the standard, so much so that even the lows are like not that low. Like the one of the worst things I have to complain about is like something that I kind of understand. It's just like, nah, you had beef with the nigga. That's how you showed him. This is how you felt about it. Yeah, it happened here, but I mean, I don't know. I've seen niggas get slapped in public every day, bro. Sometimes people just take it out in front of everybody, and
Or
that's
think
just what
about
it is.
like how infrequent is that there are bad matches. Where like we talk about it so much because most matches are if they're not great, they're fine. Like it's very
Exactly.
rare you're watching a WrestleMania, you're like, that match was awful. Like that's just there's a higher minimum standard where there when we were
Yep.
growing up, what the youth don't want to hear is that when I was growing up, brother, some of the WrestleMania matches stunk.
Go
Yeah.
back and
Stinky.
watch. Go back and watch WrestleMania. Go back and watch WrestleMania 16.
I'm saying
Try
anything
to
in them
watch that.
teens, it could get murky in them teens, bro.
Try watching that. Good luck.
Talking about pillow fight matches. Like
Yeah.
there's just a standard where I think that's another thing being older where it's like, yeah, there's just a certain standard where it's like, hey man, they're actually hitting multiple spots in combination. I can only be so angry, bro. Like, cause I've seen some dookie water WrestleMania matches and still enjoyed it. So like I can only be so mad about, a missed spot here or there.
So let's jump into some specific matches. I think the one that two of them have had me very conflicted. Not that I feel emotions towards them, but I'm just really interested in either the booking or how wrestlers conduct themselves. So the main event of night 2, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. John Cena defeats Cody Rhodes, wins his 17th WWE Championship in a moment that admittedly fell a little flat for me. And I'm not gonna lie, it fell a little flat in the moment. I haven't rewatched the match yet, but I do remember sitting there watching it. Like I was fine with it. I didn't think the match was bad. Has John Cena lost a step or two? Absolutely, but Cody's so good at kind of doing these slow, methodical main events that I was like, all right, like we're gonna get to the point where this is gonna kind of hit a second gear or a third gear. It's gonna hit a climax, hit a peak. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be an amazing finish, and then like I'll be cool. Cena hits him with 4 AAs when one of them is a super AA. And then, we get Travis Scott coming out, and it's like, okay, word, cool. Now, I need people to remember, people who are upset, like celebrities being involved in main storylines is a very common thing. Like you can look all throughout the history of WWE. That is not something that, has never happened before. So that's not a complaint that I'm necessarily going to accept. Now, something that I do agree with the people on is like Travis Scott being enough to distract Cody Rhodes, even though Cody got his lick back with the Crossroads. I kind of wish Cody was a little more violent with him. Crossroads wasn't really enough for a nigga who popped your eardrum. But Cody dispatches him. Cena pretends like, oh no, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Hits him with a low blow, hits him with a belt shot. And that's how Cena wins the title. There are a lot of people who are saying like, oh, this was an intentionally bad finish because John Cena wanted to ruin wrestling. I'm just like, I hear you. I'm not going to accept that though. I'm not accepting that, and I'm also not accepting that was enough to beat Cody Rhodes. This nigga has been the most resilient wrestler over the last few years. He kicked out of a spike spear combo. He kicked out of everything under the sun last year, and he went up against Brock Lesnar with a broken arm. Like he has done so much and
He's kicked out
overcome
of
so much.
power bombs, bro.
Like you name it, he's kicked out of it. He's overcome it, and he's come out on the winning side of it. So for that to be enough to beat Cody, just a really I don't, and Kevin Owens talks about it all the time. Like wrestling fans are very smart. We pay attention to stuff like that. We really we really lock in on these different aspects and characteristics of different wrestlers. So for me, it was just like, well, when did Cody become a fucking 77 rank on 2K? Like that's some stuff that would take out someone who was ranked like an 82. This man's a 97. Like he got the same rank as Roman Reigns. What do you mean he's taken out by a low blow and a belt shot? And then there's the obvious lack of The Rock's presence, which he just completely shat on with his Pat McAfee interview. Like for me, the match would have probably been like a 3.5, 3.75 up until the finish. And then that kind of, that kind of ruined things for me. So yeah, it was a pretty flat ending to what was a mostly enjoyable weekend for me. But how'd y'all feel about the match?
I feel like part of, and we've talked about this before too, or at least I have, it's like the WWE's logic around title belt weights is just not, it's never made any sense that like a title belt is somehow heavy enough to knock a grown man out with one glancing blow, but also light enough that you can like swing it over your head. Like that's just never, same with like low blows. Like a low blow from anyone, including Paul Heyman, is enough to like disorient the strongest wrestler sometimes. And so like that doesn't ever make sense. I think what part of it is too that like at least for me, and maybe this is kind of what I'm interested to see with the Randy match, is that what you're talking about, I definitely felt that way about Cody and Cena, but I did not feel that way about the Elimination Chamber. I felt like Punk and Cena were actually like having a decent match. Like it was just legitimately entertaining. And so I'm like, is nostalgia doing some of the work in my brain that maybe that's not happening there? And maybe that is the secret sauce for Cena. And I'm thinking that part of the issue may have just been that like kind of like we were talking about, Cody and Cena don't really have a they have a story, but the story is more about Cena. Like anyone could have really been the champion for Cena to turn heel. And so I think it's one of those things where it's like their storyline was more of just a bridge to get to Cena's storyline, but they just didn't have a good one. Whereas like Cena and Punk have so much history that like when they hit each other, I'm like telling myself it has this deeper meaning. Same with like Randy and Cena. And so I think that was part of what kind of left that match wanting was like even when The Rock and Cena interact, it's like, oh my God, it's The Rock and Cena at Mania. Whereas with Cody, it's like there is a storyline on paper that could be explored, but that really wasn't the storyline of this match. This match was much more about John Cena being heel and Cody being like, I don't like that. I don't respect you. And so I think that was part of it too, is that John is just at the point in his career where like he needs the story to help lift the match because he's not going to do it just off work rate. And I think that was maybe a miscalculation that they made in like that match, that they didn't put enough of the story or like history into the match. And again, with Rock not showing up, that impacts it. But that's how I felt. It was just like, oh, the title belt ending was kind of whack, but I always feel like that's a confusing logic. But I think also when I was watching the match, I was just like, yeah, it felt like when Cena and him were having a match, there was more to it. But I feel like that was me, not the actual like match itself. And so I think that's maybe what John needs to be focused on this last reign is that, yeah, you and Randy never have amazing matches, but there's enough history and callbacks and spots you can do that will get me through 20 minutes of backlash and I'll leave being satisfied.
But that's like, so you identified the main problem. Like both Cena and Cody are like proxies for each other. Like
Yeah.
the real story is The Rock.
Yeah, it's like
That's why
Superman versus actual Superman, not like Bizarro or something. It's like, no, they're just
yeah.
the same.
That's why like him being missing makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason um there's just no reason for, if you look at it, it's just like if you take The Rock out, why does John Cena fight Cody? It's literally just for 17. So it's like it started out with like this being about Cody and The Rock story that's been happening for what, like 2 years now. And
Happening is a
then
strong word, but yes, they have mentioned it
it's
lightly,
that's how long ago
referenced lightly.
the first part of it was established on TV. I'll say
Yes,
that.
that's more
Uh
accurate.
but like you have this going on, and like John Cena's turn is a major installment in that story. Like John Cena has his own story of turning, but that's conjoined and it is a part of a larger story. So
Right.
like when you just tell like this smaller story that people don't really care about because the build up to it really wasn't anything more than like, all right, you're coming to get 17 on behalf of like just being like, nah, doing best for business type, type shit. It's like, all right, okay, cool, you know, all right, we'll see how that goes. But it's like, if you can pull that off in a way that's creative, that keeps the story going. Because again, like to call back what you said earlier, it's like wrestling keeps building. If you can pull it off in a way where it leads to that, or it can like signal that it might lead to that, or you're just like, wow, like that was so just like what I don't even know what's gonna happen next. And maybe you can start speculating, even if you don't have crumb. If you can do that, good, because now you've got them until next week. After that, I was like, I'm going to need you to prove to me that I should watch next week now. So like until I see a clip, until I see, until I see like like when I'm watching them promos, I'm not as locked in as I probably would have been now. I'm a little bit more you got me a little bit further. You pushing me away when you should be pulling me in. And the thing is, you already had me pulled in and you didn't have to do shit to keep me there for real. That's why this is annoying, because it was so forced. Like the thing I love the most about this match is the slow 5 moves of death. If had this match
fire.
just been that and then we finished, John takes it, even if he does something sneaky, and like I honestly kick out Travis Scott, still do the low blow. Have like John go get a chair because he can't put away Cody. Cody gets the chair. He goes, no, or whatever, because it then backs up what John said about him not being able to make the hard decision, blah, blah, 17. Now their story has stakes and makes sense. But now it's just like you're trying to figure out what the fuck is even going on. Like, and at that point, it's like, well, do I want to do that work? Or do I just want to watch Aleister Black come back? No, I'll do that.
Actually, you know what? We can stop on about this specific. But what just came to me, it's like, you make such a good point, because it's like it's hard to go from like Cody being like, I'm trying to win this title from my dead dad, to John Cena being like, yeah, this is all stupid. It does kind of like take some weight out the feud, where it's like, yeah, Cody is very meta, but it's meta in a very like honorable, and that's the same with Roman. It's like, this is about our families in this tradition, and for John's whole thing to be like, yeah, this is fucking dumb. I need to win 17. It's like, yeah, that takes a little air out the balloon. A little bit.
It was such a weird pivot, because you're The Rock's hitman. The Rock is on the board. So you're aligned with this guy, or you were, and ultimately he wants what's best for the company. And he thought Cody was best for the company if Cody had done things his way.
Right.
But you, being his henchman, is now like, nah, wrestling's stupid. I'm gonna ruin wrestling for everyone. Like it's very disjointed. And not like, I don't put any of the blame on Cody. I don't put any of the blame on Cena. I do put a lot of it on The Rock. Like I've enjoyed Cena's promos, but they just, he's starting to say the same thing over and over, and there's just such a big piece missing in The Rock. Like, this isn't about like Cody's the one who brought up the fact that Cena sold his soul. Like, Cena's mentioned The Rock, but he's never really mentioned like his motivations for.
Yeah, I'm working on behalf of The Rock. Like, he doesn't talk like that. Yeah, no.
His heel turn being aligned with what The Rock was trying to provide.
Can I get this is when we came, first of all, how did you two start talking? How did this come about? When did you guys decide that you're going to be bad? Cena, like, when did you decide The Rock was the right person?
That is the promo we need. You're so right. You're so right.
There's so much that's still not happening, and you're trying to get me to care about other shit while I'm still trying to figure. It's like if you ever had to like have a conversation with a girl, when like with your girl or whatever, when like she trying to figure out some shit or whatever, or she trying to get a question answer, and you like, yeah, and then blah blah blah. It's like, nah, nigga, hold on. She's like, nah, nigga, this first thing I'm not even clear about. That's what's happening right now. And now I'm disinterested. I don't care.
It would be like if Solo showed up and then Roman was just off TV after his debut. You'd be like, okay, who is this nigga though?
Which actually kind of did happen. I'm pretty sure. I don't think Roman came back until like a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, but he also had Jay and Jim. Like, he had an environment around him to be in.
Continuity.
Whereas now it's like you guys started this story with this premise, and then because this character is gone, you can't actually address the premise of the story. So it feels like we're just treading water until we can actually start telling the story you should be telling. Because we could have done the whole ruined wrestling thing without The Rock. It almost feels like that was the plan if The Rock didn't show up. The Rock did show up, but then he left, so they went back to that plan. It's like, well, this isn't what you guys said, you know?
And ultimately, that's the main problem with the story, too. This is the last thing I'll say. The perception from the fans, I'll say this as a fan, the perception as a fan isn't that John Cena ruined wrestling. The perception from the fans is that The Rock did it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like I can't even believe seeing it about him ruining because I'm like, no, this is kind of like I'm like the I pop for dumb shit like when he was roasting the dad and his kid or whatever. I'm like, no, that's fun. What's not
Right.
fun is how we didn't get to wrap up the story. That guy did that. You didn't do that.
And he's not even owning it as wrestling does. Like if he was on Pat McAfee, he'd be like, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm doing this." And like he was kayfabing it up. It would at least pay some lip service to it. But it's like, no, he's like legitimately not making sense. No, he's trying to be for real. And I love The Rock. Don't get me wrong. When he comes back and tries to just whitewash all of this as if it was his plan, I'll be right there defending him. I'm telling you that right now. But as it stands today, you left him hanging a little bit, especially, and I can talk about this because it's what I want to talk about. After night one over delivered, you really were in a bind where you couldn't have that letdown. Because if night one would have just been all right, then that was all right. It would be, well, this is all right show. But night one that main event hit so much harder than I think a lot of people thought, even though I think people had fantasy booked the Seth turn. But I think
Yeah.
just the way it happened and the quality of the match, it really put them in a place. And I just want to say, like, people, you can't have a triple threat match with no stakes. Brother, it's wrestling. They tell you what the stakes are. They tell you what the stakes are when they're done with it.
You can literally do anything, brother.
Do whatever you want, bro. They have demons fighting soldiers. Who cares? Like, it's wrestling. Professional
You know what
wrestling is
stakes I
real.
need to see two niggas fighting? All I need to know is, do you hate that nigga? Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. Boom.
What
All right.
what did Adam Cole say? He said they give you a bunch of pyro and they change the color. For me, they just ring the damn bell.
That's it.
That's all I need, baby.
That's all you need sometimes, bro. That's all you need.
So I love that. And I think what I love about what we're doing right now is just these are my favorite type of characters, especially heels. I love the heel that's aligned with the manager, but he's like real smart and the manager's smart. And then they have a big, strong guy with them. I love that setup. Works for me every time. Super happy to see Seth with Braun. Like, I love it's like, my boy. Like, that speaks to me. We get Dom. I love a sleazy IC champion. I feel like the IC champion should have a heel who's kind of like, I'm kind of gross and sleazy and I talk shit. Like he was already talking shit to Big E. Like that's what I want out of my IC champion. And for my US champion, I love a beast. I love just a monster who just is just gonna keep going. And you get a bunch of monster versus monster matches. You get those at some point be like a fatal four-way match where they gang up on him, but he still finds a way to win. Like I just love those archetypes of characters. So I'm really excited to see again, like I said, a lot of this being new stuff. We've never seen Seth with Paul. We've never seen Dom as IC. We've never seen Jacob. So like this being new stuff and these archetypes I really like. Like you know there's gonna be some moment where like Cody tries to step to Seth and like Braun gets in the way. And so we get a Cody Braun and like we're just gonna get a lot of cool stuff. And I just love the setups we have right now. So that was my thing coming out of WrestleMania was like, yeah, maybe the show wasn't my favorite, but where it set me up and where we can go is like what I like about wrestling. Like babyface champions are always great for the climb in the moment, but over the long term, heel champions are able to tell better stories. And I feel like veteran wrestling fans know that. Young fans never understand it. They're always disappointed. Where it's like the now that he has it, it's not as fun. It's like, well, yeah, Rocky movies aren't about him defending the title. They're about him winning it. Like that's not a good movie. And so I'm just excited to see kind of these new heel champions and what they get to do.
For sure. Yeah. The other match that I wanted to talk about that I don't know if I'll necessarily say conflicted on, but I'm just kind of tired of one person. Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair. They went 19 minutes. Tiffany won as I predicted that she would. I thought it would have been a grave mistake if Triple H had Charlotte win after the way she essentially kind of steamrolled that program. Like Tiffany didn't get the upper hand until that one promo where she said what she said about Charlotte's personal life, and even that, while it was great, it still wasn't necessarily like enough within the confines of a wrestling story to like say like, all right, she has the upper hand. Like she kind of had to. It was almost as if she like hit a low blow. Really, that's just really what she did. Charlotte Flair, though, man, I respect the legacy. I respect the just like where she stands within wrestling history. But it's I mean, I don't really see her having the capability or the willingness to go into more character-based, story-based programs moving forward. did this whole top girl thing. Like, it's not conducive to the era of women's wrestling that we're in. Like, yes, there are stars and there are people who are more than likely going to hold the titles or get them back. But the way she kind of operates, she almost operates as if it's still like back in the Divas days when Trish Stratus was champion, like,
I mean,
every other
Cena
month. Like,
and Randy having a match. I'm sure she's like getting flashbacks. Hey, isn't it just like you guys win, I win? Like, isn't that what
yeah.
we do? Like,
But you are neither Cena nor Randy. I'm very sorry, Charlotte. And yeah, like if you don't wanna put, new talent in the position to succeed and thrive, then you gotta go. Like, one thing I'll give Rhea credit for is like she was a willing participant in that story, which has Liv Morgan on the level that she's at. One thing I give Bianca Belair credit for is like, Io Sky cashed in on her, but Bianca had her matches where she tried to get the title back, and then you got the Kairi Sane debut. Like, I think, I think,
Bailey. Look what
yeah,
Bailey did,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. I
Same
mean,
class.
I'm
it
saying, you
just,
saying Bianca and Rhea's the vets? I'm like, damn.
I mean,
Like, they're definitely
they,
the stars. They're definitely the stars for sure. But it's just funny to think about
but
how crazy time has passed. Like, that is how they know. I'm not disagreeing, but just saying, like, I
mhm,
remember NXT Rhea, bro.
yeah,
I remember that
yeah,
first WrestleMania in Tampa, and now you're right. She's putting over other women. It's like,
yeah.
man, look how far we've come. That's awesome. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Not.
off.
You're good. You're good. You're good. No, time flies. Like, it does feel crazy to call them vets, and like even if someone wouldn't want to call them a vet, I think the fact that like we haven't heard anything backstage about them politicking or them trying to make sure that they're always at the top, like it's really important. I think if you have that willingness when you're coming up, it's only going to benefit you more in the long run. And it's clear, like for them, I think they just want the best stories. And the best story doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be at the forefront and be the person who wins at the end. Like, yeah, of course you want championships. Like, you join this company to be the best, but you also want the company to be at its best. And more importantly, the women's division to be at its best. And we got some shooters coming up, man. Roxanne's going to be on Raw this week.
Monday, yeah.
Stephanie Vaquer does not seem like she's going to be long for NXT. Jordan Grace should be up within the next year. Julia should be up within the next year. Like, we got a lot of talented people coming up, and a lot of them rightfully deserve. Like, yo, like we should see Roxanne fighting for that Intercontinental Championship. We should see
Oh, Lyra, baby.
like,
Baby.
yeah, it's a lot of things that
Clock is
we
ticking.
should see. And so, for someone like Charlotte, who's, you've done a lot, 14-time champion, like you've main evented a WrestleMania, you've had WrestleMania wins, like you've done a lot. If you're not willing to, put people on and pay it forward, then like we really don't need you here. Like I was very frustrated in what I saw in that WrestleMania 41 match and just how she just like she was just bullshitting with Tiffany, bro. Like really bullshitting. And like, it looked like Tiffany was a little nervous. It was her first Mania match.
Now, I will say that.
She's defending the title. She's defending it against Charlotte Flair. Like there's a like as much
And
as
she
it was
should
her
be. Right.
much as it was her dream match, it's also like, yo, like I really got to make sure that I bring my A game. And so for Charlotte to be bullshitting with her in there, like it was really upsetting to see. And this was a match that should have been like 4.5 star. And it was, to me, it's like a 3.25, maybe a 3.5. Like it was just very, very annoying.
Charlotte had the opportunity to be the vet that has the matches that makes the girls coming up. She did that with Rhea. She could have went 2 for 2 with Tiff, and then she ensures the longevity of her career because she remains that person that wants to go up, like that people want to go up against in a match. Everybody in wrestling right now, or whatever, whether they've been doing it for 25 years or only 3 years, if they had a chance, if it was possible, if they knew they wouldn't kill him or whatever, and it wouldn't, put him in the dirt, they would go up against Stone Cold. They would go up against Undertaker. Those are just people where it's just like, yeah, we'll figure out the story. You're a person I want to go up against. And the problem is like, to call back to what you were saying earlier, the reason why the WWE women's division, both on all levels, is the best division right now is because it worked. They all are the type of people who work at a company who have that mindset to where they're just like, no, we want this to be good for everyone. So they treat everyone really, really well, and it all fucking works out. That's why you never really hear anybody bad mouthing each other for real. When you do, it's usually just a one nigga that got a problem. Everybody don't really like that one person, whatever. So it's like, why would you come in, see that that's going on, and fuck with that in the first place? And then two, you fucking yourself up, because if you do that, now you're working with a philosophy that's um as antithetical to what they're doing. So how much do you think you about to work now?
So I'm gonna cape for Charlotte just for a little bit, just because
Oh
I
God.
gotta wave the flag. I'm not even like I'm not disagreeing with anything about the match. I think Galaxy Brain. I think part of this is more about like the how we view, not like we view women's wrestling, but like women's wrestling has come a long way. And I think part of the issue is like what I just think about with the Charlotte thing is like when they brought Roman back, they knew that, like, I'm talking about COVID, like first tribal chief when he was gone, because I think Charlotte and Roman have a lot of parallels, whether it be family lineage, like how they wrestle, when they came up, even like where their place, I think, are in a lot of similar things. I think they knew, because of how more advanced and how more serious we take men's wrestling often, that they had to shift him up. I think they kind of got lazy with Charlotte. And I'm not saying she had no part in this, but I feel like they got lazy and let her play that old gimmick, not taking into the fact that A, people are kind of sick of it, and B, women's wrestling is just different. And so I think part of it is not even just like a her thing, it's just like it's kind of a disservice. Like even the Becky Lynch, the man, Bailey, the Ro, like those came through like real life, almost like stumbling into them. For the most part, most women's gimmicks stay exactly the same unless they do some goofy shit like Nikki ASH. So like think about people like Rhea and Liv. Like the Judgment Day stuff had to happen and just kind of fumble into it. And I think because Charlotte's been gone, she hasn't had the opportunity to fumble and kind of work her way into a more natural character. And so I think basically what I'm saying is that I agree with what you're saying, but I do think that she is in a position, if she chooses to, and if she is given kind of the right booking, that she can find a more natural character, because that is much more easy to do in today's WWE. Whereas, like, even when she was gone 2 years ago, that just wasn't as much of a thing. And I think part of it is that she has to realize that the scene has changed, but also the writing around her and stuff. Like Meals was tweeting about her having a tag partner. Part of the issue is that, like, I can't even think about who would partner with Charlotte. Like, it would have to be such a unique person. Whereas, like, that's part of the issue with how we view Charlotte. And like they just have to change that. Whereas, like, if you pair Randy Orton with Matt Riddle, it shows you another side of Randy. But they have to do that, and it has to like be able to develop. And so I think if she's given the space, she's good enough to do it. But it's not gonna be an overnight thing. Like, I don't think she's just gonna have a new gimmick one day, kind of like Roman did, and be fly. I think it's gonna be like she's gonna end up doing some bullshit comedy segment, with, I don't know, like Cora Jade, and all of a sudden it just works, and that becomes part of her new thing. But it's gonna have to be something like that. Like Becky Lynch had to get punched in the fucking nose and have her shit bleed all over her face to become the man. Charlotte's gonna have to find herself in a situation where some shit happens, and it's like, oh, okay, this is who you are. But like, it's just gonna have to happen naturally.
We'll see,
And it's
man.
crazy. I think it's possible. The one thing I will say is, like, she's shown in the past like who she really is as a person. I think she leans into, like, when she talks about the Queen's, or you see the Queen Charlotte stuff, as far
Mhm.
as like the gimmick, like you lean into like the more mean part of the Queen stuff, but it's just like you could also be like a nice queen too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, there's other ways to like give us, round it out. Don't
Yeah, and her
just
dad,
have,
her dad is Ric Flair, who is not the most dynamic character. So it's not like she's coming from a lineage of these crazy, like, it's like that's all they do is that woo shit. He was doing that woo. Still doing the woo shit. So like, cut her some
Yeah.
slack, all right? It's not like she was raised with Rikishi and he was dancing and shit, and then he was mean sometimes, and then sometimes they was Japanese, sometimes they had face
That's
paint.
a
They was,
really good point. I never thought about that. I never
yeah.
thought about that.
Ric Flair is not this dynamic gimmick. It's evolution was probably the most different he was. So she needs an evolution. Like I say, she needs some to help her break out of it, and I'm willing to write it. I'm willing to I'm willing to do her and Jade Mega Powers. I think it would be fire. I think you get the Amazon goddesses, you have them double power bombing bitches through tables, you have them talking shit about we the flyers. And it's like, not that I'm the it girl, but like we are like physically imposing on these women, but they can be funny. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be
Uh,
put in a double scissor headlock by Charlotte and Jade.
I will say we did see Rick try a couple different things, like in his era where he was general manager, and the whole storyline with him and the McMahons,
Okay,
and
yes,
then and
when he
then
was
his
GM.
and then his whole retirement angle where he wasn't necessarily the most boisterous, dirtiest player in the game. Like he was like, yo, like I know I'm towards the end of my career, but someone has to beat me to put me out. Like it was different. I like fair
No,
point,
he
fair point.
he took nuance of his character. I'm just saying it wasn't like a Shield Roman to Tribal Chief Roman,
For
who
sure,
those
for
are
sure.
like
Yeah,
totally different people. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's more
yeah,
of
yeah.
like a Randy Orton. I've evolved through this character, but I'm still Randy Orton.
Right, right, yeah. But just some quick hits before we wrap up. I really enjoyed Jacob Fatu and LA Knight's match. We got to give LA Knight that boy's 2 for 2 at WrestleMania, man, because no one expected
Yeah.
anything from his AJ Styles match last year. Banger. I proudly said on another podcast that Fatu and LA Knight was going to be my bathroom break match. I stayed and watched that shit. That was a great fucking match, man. I gotta give both of them credit for Fatu to do that in his first WrestleMania. He's the type of character who, like, while I still have some reservations about him, in terms of being ready for the moment and not running away from the moment and doing things that entice crowds, like he's got it. He's got that early. Some people have to grow into that. He's really got that just natural showmanship to him, which really benefits the character that he is, the stage that he's at in his career, also as a U.S. champion too. Like, a lot of people were saying, "Yo, Jacob, like world champion, future world champion," and I think he is a future world champion. But I like the idea of these very white hot people who just draw a lot of attention. Put them in the mid card. Like the mid card still needs a
We
lot of
do.
love. Like I can't remember the last great U.S. champion. Like it's been some time. But the Intercontinental title, as opposed to that's had a lot of great champions from Gunther to Sammy to Braun to Dom. Like that's a very good run of champions, and so I really like putting it on Jacob, as we saw on SmackDown Friday. Now you got Drew McIntyre coming after him. You got Damian Priest, who looks like he's going to be in the mix, and it's like these guys are main eventers, world title caliber, but there were times where world title caliber guys went to that mid card, like Roman
John
Reigns
Cena's
was.
open challenge. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
like it's a lot of world title caliber guys who go down and get involved in the mid card. So I'm all for it. So huge credit to Fatu and LA Knight. Really enjoyed that. And it goes without saying, those triple threat matches, Io, Bianca, Rhea, and Seth Roman Punk were just absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed the Fatal 4-Way IC title match.
Mhm.
Drew Priest was really good. Like this was a good WrestleMania. I'd never call it bad. Like the really good stuff was fantastic. The not good stuff is just like stuff that'll kind of stick. But I honestly believe that between the Raw after Mania and SmackDown after Mania, they did a really good job of kind of bringing things around, creating some intrigue with what's coming next.
Can I say one last
So
thing?
sure.
And this is something I haven't heard people say, but this is something that is I've been tracking and I think will help make WrestleManias great again. We need to stop being so low key with our entrances. We need to start going back to bringing out tanks, being obnoxious, going over the top. I feel like the stages have been great and they've been doing these beautiful, gigantic stages. But because of that, it's somehow hindered some of the entrances where we don't get the crazy Cena's got 50 people doing this, or, Triple H would always come out with some crazy motorcycle machine thing. And I feel like that is something we should get I would like us to get back to, and I think that can help people feel like there's a bit more. Because even like with the main event matches, they may come out in special gear instead of the flamethrower, but like I think that part of this is we don't have the Undertaker, so we don't get those entrances. But like we do need, I think, some of the pageantry needs to come back. We're getting the celebrity, we're getting the showcase, we're getting the work rate, but we none of our Cody. Honestly, I thought Cody would be more of a stunt queen, but he's really not. But besides Seth, none of our world main eventers are like real flashy fly. Like I'm gonna do some crazy entrance, and we do need a little bit of that. So I don't know if it's, Roman or maybe Damian or Drew could lean into that, but somebody needs to get into like I'm gonna make a massive production for my WrestleMania interest next year. That's my call. That I need to see that.
Word, CC, you got any final thoughts?
I mean, shit, I'm with you on that, brother. The other thing I'll say is, I just got a message for the fans, specifically like the IWC or whatnot. Um, Try to make sure you get 8 hours of sleep when you wake up in the morning. For at least like the first 2 hours, try to be off your phone. You want to get a good walk in outside during that shower, preferably use a rag or a sort of like a scrubbing sort of tool. Make sure you get in there real nice. Do it twice, just to make sure. Deodorant afterwards. Walk outside with that purpose in mind, and then start engaging. Let's see if anything turns out different. Just that.
Yeah. Actually, one last thing I wanted to present to y'all. So this past Friday on SmackDown, Jade Cargill had a match with Tiffany Stratton, and the internet and the Discord and everyone, kind of had their reactions to it. Obviously, Jade has been signed since October 2023. She debuted on the main roster in January 2024. Had her first singles match. I want to say her first singles match was like right after WrestleMania, but she hasn't necessarily been on TV that long. It's been like a year and some change, and it's a tough spot because they presented her as such a big deal. Like she was next to Bianca, next to Naomi, mixing it up with Damage Control. And so her beating Naomi, while the story is like their betrayal, Naomi is like, even if she hasn't been like a top girl in the company, like you're beating a two-time women's champion, you're beating a multi-time tag team champion. Like beating her at WrestleMania is nothing to necessarily like overlook. And so this, Jade facing Tiffany, the women's champion, felt like the natural progression based off of how she's been presented. But at the same time, it's like in ring, she's still not there yet. So it's a really tough thing to do. Like ultimately, I'm glad that they did it. She needs the reps, and taking her from that to fucking facing like one of the bottle girls or something, it would just been like, all right, well, what are y'all doing? So for Jade Cargill, like, what is the logical, like, well, what does the next year or so look like for her to y'all? Like, is she getting a world title match at some point? Are you kind of, gonna shuffle her to the mid card, but make her kind of like a Jacob Fatu, where she is presented like a big deal, but she's a strong mid card champion who brings a lot of attention? Like, how are y'all ultimately gonna book her, especially given the fact, like, if you put her in that ring for longer than 10 minutes, yeah, you know?
Bro,
I
fuck
don't.
titles. I book her to grow her personality. She need more reps. What I saw in that match with Tiff was something that I hadn't really seen before from Jade. Was that as they were doing the warm up, we're doing the, just playing around with each other thing. There was a confidence there where like Jade wasn't like, I didn't see her being like, okay, and I'm supposed to be here. All right, okay, look at her for this long. I didn't see any of that. So like just more reps. I don't care how I do it, more reps. That's it.
You should definitely get, a title shot at some random, money in the bank or something and lose. But she should definitely get at least one. I'm thinking that she's gonna serve a role. I want her to serve a role similar to a almost a LA Knight, where it's like you are going to be the contender or the third person or in the gauntlet matches, not necessarily winning, but I need you to get over and be in front of people. Kind of like you're saying, like it's a matter of practice, but like LA Knight, some of his matches weren't the flyest when he first started, but he was over and he got there. And I think that's the thing with Jada. She's got to get there. I do think it would benefit her a lot to be a part of a faction. I think if SmackDown were to get something shaking, with a nice, heel situation where it's, her, either another woman and a guy or two guys and her. Like, I think she would do well playing off of someone else's personality because I feel like she's going to get a little more comfortable talking to. So I can see her, being in a, just because it's kind of racist, but I can see her being paired with like the Street Profits being in like a 6-person thing, or I think she's gonna end up with like some not what's the girl? What's the Alpha Academy girl? What's her name? Dupree,
Maxine.
Maxine. Yeah, not wrestling that little, but I could see her doing something like that, where she is like paired with Bronson Reed, and they're like kind of having a thing, but they both support each other during their matches. I feel like she's gonna have a almost like storyline that's not a love angle, but like more of like a personal storyline than like she's beating Zelina Vega for the U.S. title. I think they could go that way, but I don't think that would serve her best right now.
You know who I could see? I could see with Jade, Dakota Kai.
And turn on her
I
ass
think
again.
no, yeah, I think it's perfect because Dakota Kai can set a level of like promo, attitude, delivery, presence that Jade can like be just from being next to her, aspire to and like kind of like rub off on. And
Ooh.
like, because think about it, like Dakota when she gets her back her backstage segments or whatever, like she kills it for like the whole group, for everybody that she's speaking for or whatever. So you put Jade next to that, plus the fact if you look at their wrestling styles, they're incredibly similar. Like Jade has some striking thing to her thing. So that's where they have that Venn diagram. So you let Dakota do a little bit of the lighter stuff. She comes in a little bit at the heavy, but they're both fast and like really athletic. That would be kind of cool. But then yeah, eventually Dakota Kai turns, make her into a face.
I forget what they did a similar storyline this with the men, but I would like to see Jade with Natty and have them be one of those feuds where it's like Natty's trying to make Jade better. So like they have an initial match, Natty wins, but then she's like trainer in the Heart Foundation, Heart Dungeon. Then have another match, Jade does better, but Natty wins. And like it's like one of those things where it's like I'm trying to make you better, and
That
I'm
also
like
works because it brings reality into it. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like
yeah,
the opposite of what you're saying with Dakota, where it's like, no, I wrestle very technically and you don't. And I'm about to teach you how to do it. And that
yeah.
way, at the end of it, we can be this like powerhouse. I feel like that she needs to be with like a vet. Like her being with Naomi and Bianca is cool. But unfortunately, because they're like so friendly, they seem like peers. Where like I low key need her with like a Trish or a Natty or someone who's legitimately like, no, run another rep, do it again. And then
It's
get to see her like that.
I
it's
like
funny
that.
because a lot of people kind of what's the word? Um what's the word where people like predict negativity? Um
Um,
fuck, what is it? What is
Not
it?
like Doom,
It's doom something. It's
not Doom Spiral. It's I know what you're talking about.
yeah, like people kind of like sarcastically were like, oh, Jade's gonna her first program is gonna be with Natty. And I was like, one, that would probably be good, and two, she
Fire?
needs that. Like
Yeah, she
she
yeah,
needs that. Like,
that would be perfect.
why would you overlook that? If you want someone to be a star and be good in ring, Natty's the perfect person to have your first program with.
Yeah.
Like she's the enhancement talent for the women, or even someone like Shayna, even though things got a little, testy between them.
Yes.
And or so someone like Zoe, like that's I understand in the time that they debuted her. Yes, you want to put her on Mania, you want to do the big three thing. I think that was great. I think that they had a good tag team run, but now that it's time for her to establish herself as singles, again, it's tough because her 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 trajectory is her being, with all of the fellow world title caliber talent, but her actual in-ring talent level says, hey man, you kind of need to go and toss Zelina around a little bit. You need to
Low
you need
key
to
need to be on NXT, bro, because once Julie and them leave, it's gonna be barren.
that's
So
what I said she should have did. I
I
said she should have
wouldn't
been on NXT. They called me crazy.
I wouldn't hate a 3-month, 4-month run where when that flip happens, she's down there and she can take out Izzy Dame, be NXT champion for a while, and just rock it like that. Have a good match with Jada Parker, Kalani James. I feel like that could help her a lot, honestly. And it would make sense because people do those kind of stints, but she also would benefit just from the technical practice.
Bro, let her go down and have one of them what's the match where they take the ring ropes off?
Oh, NXT Underground with Lola Vice.
Yo, let her go down there have an underground match with Jada Parker, nigga. Oh my god, my goodness. But yeah, so that's our show for the week. Definitely let us know how you all felt about WrestleMania 41. Let us know how you would rewrite the road to Clash of the Castle 2022. Of course, for myself, Armand, for CC, for Chan, we are the Men with the Pen. Thank you for enjoying another episode of the Rewriters Room. And most importantly, make sure that you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/The A Show RNC. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.